Welcome to another episode of Off the Record with the Tacoma Ledger. We got a great one for you today. The best one that we've done. Take it away, Michaela.
Okay, so today we're gonna do something a little different than I feel like what we've done. This is kind of similar, I would say, to that movies podcast we did, where it was like talking about the top 100 movies of all time. Except we're going to be talking about some of our personal top things of 2025. So we're going to start off with the Ledger's top 5 articles from fall quarter in terms of views. This is probably not in an accurate order for some reason, but the...
So the first article with over 1,000 views is Rainbow Fish, which is written by me.
MJ, tell us a little bit about this article.
Okay, so on a nice sunny day on a Monday, I decided that I was going to write about Rainbow Fish at Tacoma Musical Playhouse because, I just wanted to write something local, and Rainbow Fish was the only thing happening within my distance. And so I watched it, and then I wrote a review on it, and pretty much it was $15 for a ticket, and it was a very interesting show, but it was really charming, it was really nice. And then when the article got published, so I was looking at my emails while I was like half asleep on the morning that they got published, the email. And then I was just looking through, and then I go to Arts and Entertainment, and then I see the picture that was used to advertise my article, and I got scared fully awake. And then the first thing I thought was, wow, this is not going to attract people to read my article. And here we are. It has 1,000 views.
Crazy work. People apparently really love Rainbow Fish. I mean, it's a great children's book, but I have not seen the musical adaptation. What was your favorite part of the production?
Well, for starters, I knew some of the people on the stage from previously working with them. And second off, it was just really fun and relaxing to see it with my boyfriend, and it just gave us something to do relatively cheap. And it was very audience interactive, so that's another thing that I liked. It was really comedic. I really loved the starfish, and there's just like little bits that I just love in the show.
Yeah. Awesome. So another one of our top articles was written by our reporter Huzaifa. He wrote about the Xbox Game Pass. After that, we have another article by MJ about Silent Hill F. After that, Ella's article about the whole Taylor Swift Charlie XCX controversy, our previous editor-in-chief Jaminson's article about land acknowledgements, and then an article that I wrote about AI's potential impact in the classroom. So now that we've gone through kind of the top 5 articles from the Ledger, we're going to go into some more personal, top things of the year. So we're going to start off with the top movies we've watched. MJ, do you want to start with your movies?
Some of these are similar to what Michaela has, so I only put 2 on here. But for mine, I put Zootopia 2. At first, I didn't really want to watch that movie because, I wasn't that big of a fan of Zootopia, and it was, 10 years since the first movie released, so I was like, I really don't care about this movie if it's been 10 years since the first one. And then my boyfriend told me I'm hearing all these people talk about how good the movie is. His coworker told him how good the movie is, and I'm like, oh, I guess we're gonna watch it eventually. And this was after Wicked, and movie tickets are $30 for the both of us. So we were like, I don't know if we're gonna watch this, but I guess we're going to. And then we watched it a few days after Christmas. I think it was New Year's Eve, and then it turned out to be a really good movie. So I really enjoyed just having that movie. And then the second one that I put on here is the Minecraft movie. I will say I did not want to watch this movie at all at first, but then once again my boyfriend convinced me to watch it with him, and he bought me an Ender Dragon shirt so he can dress up as Steve, and I'm just the Ender Dragon.
I'm noticing a pattern here.
Yeah. Ironically enough, I ended up really liking the movie. It was really funny. I watched it with my boyfriend and his parents. And I liked it enough to go see it again. Unfortunately, that experience was kind of ruined because the people next to us were really loud. I mean, it's a good movie. It was just, the second time had to be ruined.
I know there were a lot of, like, memes kind of that came out of that movie.
Yeah.
I'm assuming that's probably what made the second viewing a little worse, perhaps.
Yeah, I mean, luckily enough, the people at Ruston were calm enough.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't really experienced the whole, like, chicken jockey yelling out joke. It was just mostly dealing with people who don't know theater etiquette.
Fair enough. The movies that I put on this list, I'm actually going to go in chronological order of release, even though I didn't write them that way. The first movie that I really loved that came out this year was Thunderbolts. I thought it kind of marked a really interesting turning point for the MCU. It was, to me, tonally different than a lot of their movies. And also I feel like more relatable for a lot of its audience members. It had a great cast. It was a pretty great story, in my opinion, at least. And yeah, the actors did a great job in that movie. I'm hoping that we are able to see more of those actors in those roles in the future. Because otherwise it kind of feels like a waste. The next movie that I have on here is Superman. I have never been a huge DC Comics kind of gal, especially because, like, all of the, like, DC movies that came out in, like, the 2010s were kind of terrible. I remember seeing Batman vs. Superman in theaters and walking out and being like, what in the world did I just watch? Because to me it was genuinely the dumbest movie I think I've watched, at least in terms of superhero movies. I have other movies I hate more than that. But it kind of turned me off of DC Comics movies for a while, and then James Gunn's Superman came out, and I'm just like, oh, so this is what I should have seen before. David Cornsweet plays a wonderful Superman and Clark Kent. He's just kind of a lovable guy all around, so it was a really great watch. Then the next movie was Wicked for Good. Conclusion to Wicked. MJ, I know you really enjoyed this movie, so I'd love if you would talk about this one a little bit more in depth.
Okay, so coming from, like, a theater kid, I just really enjoyed the fact that, like, there was another musical adaptation, because I know there hasn't been, like, a lot of that recently. And after seeing the first Wicked, I was just super stoked for the second movie. And I do know that the second act of Wicked is a little bit controversial for being kind of bad and not memorable. And I will say, like, the movie version, it definitely did better than what I thought, because I was a little bit scared that it was going to end kind of sort of like on a cliffhanger note, because I do know, like, a little spoiler, that, like, Elphaba doesn't really die. But I do remember seeing on social media that there was, like, this scene where Glenda had what's the book name?
The Grimoire?
Yes, that. I remember that a lot of people were saying, like, oh, that's Elphaba telling Glenda that she's alive. And I didn't really see any, like, in between on that on social media, so I was, like, really worried that it was just gonna end. I'm like, is Elphaba really dead? Is Elphaba, like, still alive? Like, I was just worried they weren't gonna show the fact that she's still alive. Mm-hmm. And when I saw the movie, like, I'm really glad they didn't go that route, because I would've been so mad if they did. And the songs in Wicked for Good, they're definitely a little bit worse than the first one. I will say I did not care for songs like Girl in the Bubble. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I really care for some of, like, the in-between songs, but I obviously, like, do love For Good and No Good Deed. Mm-hmm. I almost cried at For Good. My boyfriend definitely did cry, and I remember just hearing the song, and I could hear sniffling, and I was, like, looking over, and I see tears in his eyes, and I'm like, oh, am I like heartless or something? Because this song's really sad. I know it's like them saying goodbye to each other, but like, I don't feel crying.
Yeah, I'm gonna be honest. I did cry during the first part of Wicked. I did not cry during the second part. I cried like 3 separate times during the first part of Wicked. And I think you do bring up a good point that most people are like, oh, the second act of Wicked is like nowhere near as interesting as the first. And it's like, kind of, but I feel like it also has some really interesting plot points, especially with the whole like Elphaba faking her death. I think that's a really important plot point that I'm very glad they included. But the first act does have, like, the most well-known songs, so I understand that perspective. The next movie that I really loved that came out towards the end of 2025 was Wake Up Dead Man, which is a Knives Out mystery. It's the 3rd one so far. And honestly, it might take the spot of number 1 for me from the first one. The second Knives Out movie, Glass Onion, was very weird. I still enjoyed it because I love a good murder mystery, and I love Daniel Craig as Benoit Blanc. I think he's so funny in that role, and it's so different from, like, his role as James Bond. But Wake Up Dead Man was such an interesting portrayal of, like, religion and Catholicism. I'm not a particularly religious individual, but it was very cool to see how that, like, spiritual aspect informed so much of the movie, but it also, like, while promoting religion, it also criticizes it. I appreciated that they kind of brought in both sides and how religion can be misused as well. And then the last movie I have on here was Avatar: Fire and Ash. Here's the thing about the 3rd Avatar movie. At a certain point, it starts to feel a lot like they're telling the same story over and over again, but they're so visually stunning that it's hard not to enjoy them just for that. And I'm a big, like, nerd about, like, movie scores, and that movie is just, the music is so beautiful. I love it so much. That is like, yeah, they could just keep putting out essentially the same story over and over, and I would still probably spend money on seeing it. Along the same lines of movies, we are now going to transition into some top TV shows of 2025. I'll give a disclaimer that one of these is not either of our personal top TV shows, but we felt it couldn't go without a mention, so we'll start with that. It is Stranger Things. I don't know about everyone else, but the ending of that show? First of all, 90 minutes, and to do what exactly? Kill off your main character? Give essentially, like, the worst ending ever? It's written incredibly poorly, and you can tell? I don't know why we had to spend 90 minutes on that. And I also don't know why we had to wait until New Year's Eve to watch it either. MJ, what were your thoughts on the last season of Stranger Things?
First thing that I kept thinking about is the amount of plot holes that are just in this final season, and then anytime, like, someone brings it up to, like, the Duffer Brothers, their first response is, well, it could be not, you know. is what's her name? Is Robin still with Vicky? I don't know.
Who's to say?
Why weren't the Demogorgons in the final boss? You know, he just didn't expect it. Vecna just didn't expect them to be there and kill him. Mm-hmm. And I think one of the biggest plot holes that honestly kept me thinking for so long is just, how did Henry go to high school? Because in the 4th season, like, the way they portrayed, like, Henry is that his whole life has just been in the lab, and if we obviously, like, know anything about Dr. Brenner, he keeps those kids in, like, he does not let them go outside. And in season 4, like, after Henry, like, kills his family besides his father, like, they show Henry in the lab with Dr. Brenner. So with season 5, and even, like, the whole play, because I didn't even think about the play until season 5, because they like incorporated some of that into the series. It just completely disregards season 4, because how would Henry go to high school? How would he know all these people like Karen and Hopper if he was in the lab?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just like, what is, Duffer do you not know your whole show?
Yeah, something else kind of interesting that I think I saw on Twitter a couple days ago was that for the first 4 seasons, Winona Ryder helped them when it came to, like, the, like, time period and, like, the accuracy of it. But season 5, she kind of just said, screw y'all, because her character kind of got screwed over in that last season. Yeah, Stranger Things season 5 honestly was just kind of a letdown. It didn't end particularly well, and I don't think it gave a lot of people the ending they were looking for, and I feel like sometimes you can give, like, a kind of surprising ending and it still works out, but this was a surprising ending that was just terrible and bad, and I think the majority of people do not like.
Yeah. I think another thing is the whole, like, killing off the characters bit, because the Duffer Brothers, like, advertise it as, like, a whole, like, bloodbath or whatever, and that there's gonna be, like, so many deaths. And then the only deaths are Kali, who came back for some reason, Vecna, who was obviously going to die in season 5, and then technically 11, but then we have, like, the whole Mike sequence where he's like, oh, 11, like...
But she could be in Iceland.
And I'm just like, if you're going to kill 11 off, like, yeah, it's sad, but just keep her dead.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if you're gonna...
It's like, don't invite the possibility of her still being alive, because it kind of defeats the whole purpose of this tragic character ending that you're trying to set up.
Exactly, like, it makes a whole lot of sense that, like, she would need to die, but then why would you bring back the possibility that she would be alive? Like, I just don't get it.
Also, I maintain that Mike and Will should have ended up with each other, but that's a separate story. Other shows that came out last year, Daredevil Born Again. I loved the original Daredevil that came out on Netflix. I think Charlie Cox does a wonderful job as Daredevil. I mean, obviously there's some things to be said, and that can be criticized about that original series, but I think Daredevil Born Again does such a good job of not falling into the same mistakes as the original Netflix show. Though I am still very upset that they killed off Foggy, because he was my favorite character. So I'm really not happy about that one at all. But I'm so excited for season 2 to come out. I think that it's really connecting back to the MCU, but in a separate way, so it's not, like, directly intertwined. But I found it really entertaining, and I really loved it. Have you watched it, MJ?
No.
Okay, I would recommend it. The other 2 shows, these are shows that started towards the end of 2025, but didn't fully come out until, like, January, kind of. First show, I have to bring it up, Heated Rivalry. I enjoyed that show. It was wonderful. The first 2 episodes for me, but once you get past those first 2 episodes, it's just like, you're like, okay, I understand kind of why they were necessary to help, like, build this story and establish this relationship between these characters. And also, having read the books, it makes a lot more sense now. I really enjoyed it. Episode 6 touched my heart. It was beautiful. And then Percy Jackson season 2. I loved the first season when it came out, even though, like, I would say that it is very book accurate, but I really enjoy some of the changes that they've been making. There's a particularly interesting change in the season finale of season 2. It hasn't been out for super long, so I won't spoil it, but I think it's a very good change from the books. It makes the show far more interesting, in my opinion. MJ, do you have any other top shows?
For me, the only thing I can really think of is the show Smiling Friends. So, a little backstory. So, for the entirety of my boyfriend and I's relationship, so there's a pattern here again. So for the past 2 years, he has been trying to get me into Smiling Friends, and for a long time, I just, like, wasn't really into it, because, like, I didn't understand, like, the comedy of it. Because it's a lot of dark humor, and it's, like, it's just, like, really oddly placed humor. Mm-hmm. And so for the past 2 years, I would just, like, look at him and go, I really don't get this show. I don't know why you like it, besides the fact that it's kind of stupid. And then recently, I kept getting like memes on Instagram and TikTok of this one scene from Smiling Friends. So this character named Alan, he has like this paperclip box. And then he goes, "Thank God, finally." What the F? And that just became like a vocal stim for me. And then when my boyfriend told me that it was from Smiling Friends, I was like, I need to watch the show. I need to watch this episode where this new vocal stim is from. And then after watching that, like, now I just magically find it funny.
Love that. Next thing we're gonna go into, MJ's gonna do the majority of speaking on this because, to be honest, I don't have a lot of expertise in this area, but our top video games. Now, the only video game I play even somewhat consistently is Animal Crossing. I love it. It's relaxing. I can just go around and catch fish and catch bugs and cut down trees and try to pay all my debt back to that evil raccoon. But it's a lot of fun. But that's the only video game I really have experience on. So, MJ, I'm going to pass this off to you, and you're going to tell me all about these video games.
Okay, so this section is going to be more of video games I'm looking forward to in 2026 because 2025 was very rough, and I only really played 2 video games from 2025. And the first one is Silent Hill F. So this game is technically the first, like, original Silent Hill F game since 2012, I believe. And this game, it got a lot of controversy because it wasn't like your, like, James Sunderland Silent Hill 2, like, here's this town, like, it's based in Japan, but it still has, like, the same, like, generic factors of a Silent Hill game. And so, this was, like, the one game that I played 3 times in like a straight week, because I wanted to get all the endings. And then after I got like the 4th ending or something, I stopped playing it because I just got tired of just playing the same game over and over again. And so I still really like the game. I love the soundtrack. I love the story. I love like the little meanings behind it. I've just not been able to sit down and play through it again. Then the second game from 2025 is Mario Kart World, and that's because my boyfriend got a Switch 2 for Christmas. So every time I go to his house, he's just having me play Mario Kart World or Smash Bros. On the Switch 2, and I usually play it with his parents, and then I get beaten by either him or his parents for some reason.
I gotta teach you my Mario Kart skills, because I promise I do have some.
Like, I'm so good at, like, the Mario Kart Deluxe, but God forbid I play Mario Kart World, because I suck at that game. And now for the games that are coming up in 2026, I'm very excited for. So the first one is Resident Evil Requiem, or Resident Evil 9. I really love the Resident Evil series. I remember playing Resident Evil 8 during COVID years, and just, like, trying to speedrun it for absolutely no reason, just to get a good ranking in the trophies on my PlayStation. But I'm really excited for this game because not only does it just have like new combat, new storyline, but it also introduces a new character while also bringing back one of my favorite Resident Evil characters in the world, Leon Kennedy. Everyone knows I love Leon Kennedy, including my boyfriend. Even when I was a little high schooler, like, everyone just knew I loved Leon Kennedy. Like, especially Resident Evil 4 Remake Leon Kennedy. Favorite. He's also the reason I realized I was queer. So...
You love a queer awakening.
Yeah, so I, like, took one look at him, I was like, I'm a boy! Yeah, so, and just every time I look at him, I'm like, yeah, I'm pretty confident in my identity. So the next game is Life is Strange Reunion. So this is a continuation of Life is Strange Double Exposure. So Life is Strange Double Exposure is a continuation of Max Caulfield's story from the Life is Strange from 2015. That game raised a lot of controversy for the wrong reasons. So I personally didn't find the game really strong because of the story. The very ending of it was just kind of rushed, I feel like. But a lot of people didn't like the game because their favorite ship of Max and Chloe broke up. And I was just looking at, like, the leaks for it. And I'm just like, this is like a 10-year gap between the first game and the second game. And their whole relationship was based on, like, a trauma bond. So it would make sense for them to break up eventually. Maybe they get back together. I don't know. But a lot of people were just like, yeah, boycott the game because my two favorite ships didn't stay together. And I'm not, like, the big thing on ships. Like, I do love it when, like, two characters get together. But, like, if they break up, like, that's not going to be the reason I boycott a game. But Life is Strange Reunion actually brings back Chloe Price, and I did hear that there's going to be another romance option for them, which I really do appreciate. I appreciate just, like, first off, like, bringing back a beloved character, but also is the final game in the whole Max and Chloe arc. So I'm just glad that they're closing that off finally, because I'm a little bit tired of hearing of it, but I also love Life is Strange. I just really hope that the series just gets, like, some new stories. Like, I remember loving Life is Strange 2 a lot, and I really hope there's a continuation on that story. But yeah, I'm really excited for that game.
Quick pause. In case you don't know what shipping is and you want to know more about it, you should go to one of our last episodes and watch the fan fiction episode. We go into it a lot more in depth.
Okay, I have two more games. So one of them is Tomodachi for the Nintendo Switch 2. I think one of the things that I'm really excited for is the you can now make trans characters and have queer couples. So now whenever my boyfriend inevitably gets the game for his Switch 2, we can be a little gay couple in Tomodachi, which I love. So now I have The Sims Free Play, where we're both just a little gay married couple. But we also have Tomodachi, where we can also be a little gay couple.
You just threw me back to my adolescence. Sims Free Play, oh my goodness. I spent many hours on that game. On my Kindle.
Like, every time I would play Sims Free Play, like, I would download it, get to, like, a certain point, and then I would just get so tired of having to use, like, so many simoleons to, like, build structures to get through the game. Like, I've never gotten through to the whole, like, hey, your sim has to die. Here you go. I've just never gotten through that.
The death quest.
I've just never gotten through that. I'm like, this is starting to make me mad.
Yeah, I never stayed invested that long. I got bored.
Even with, like, the whole new things, like, too many simoleons.
Yes.
And then the final game that I am looking forward to in 2026 is the Tomb Raider Legacy of Atlantis game. That is a whole remake to the first game in the 1990s. I will say, as someone who's played the Survivor trilogy of Tomb Raider, I was a little thrown off by her design. But I do like her remake design. It is very faithful to the first game. I do know that game has a little bit of controversy over her depiction, but I do hope that they change that up a little bit. There is technically another game in 2027. I do not know how I feel about that, because she looks like Millie Bobby Brown.
Fair enough.
So I'm just a little thrown off by Millie Bobby. Lara Croft.
That would be odd. Yes.
But yeah, those are my top video games.
Awesome. So now, moving into something we both can talk about again, we're gonna talk about music. The Grammys just happened, but to be honest, I don't know anything about really anyone who was nominated for the Grammys. I apparently don't listen to enough artists that are nominated for Grammys, I guess. So we're just gonna go into some of our top artists, our top songs, some of my top artists from last year, just going off my Apple Music replay, were the band Camino, Noah Kahan, Joy Oladokin, Eric Church, Hollow Coves, and Taylor Swift. I actually saw Joy, Eric, and Hollow Coves last year. I went to a couple concerts, and I mean, they all put on great shows. They all have great music. And you know, I can't not mention Taylor Swift. I do love her. She was my number one artist because she has such a wide discography. MJ, who are some of your top artists from last year?
Okay, so I did not listen to a lot of artists last year besides my usual, but some new ones that I do have are Cat's Eye, and Lisa from Blackpink as her own little solo artist, because that's just a whole mess together. Blackpink, what are we doing? And then the last one's really Billie Eilish because of her song Wildflower. I really love that song.
I think that song won a Grammy, didn't it?
I'm pretty sure it did, yeah.
I think it did. People are throwing a fit because it came out in like 2024 and it's 2026. I don't really know how the Grammys work, so I don't have an opinion on that, but I know other people do. Yeah, one of the cool things that Apple Music Replay does is at the end of the year, it'll also give you your top songs by month, which to me, honestly, gives a better representation of what I'm listening to throughout a year rather than like a top 100 songs. So, going into my top songs by month, my January song was I Feel Better by Novo Amor. My February song was What Are You Listening To by Chris Stapleton. My March song was Youngblood by Noah Kahan. My April song was Spring Into Summer by Lizzie McAlpine. My May song was Johnny by Eric Church. My June song was Ain't No Mountain High Enough by Marvin Gaye and Tammy Terrell. My July song is honestly a little embarrassing and I considered not including it, but I think it's funny. It's a bar song, Tipsy by Shabuzi. My August song was The Subway by Chapel Roan. September was Meet Me in the Woods by Lord Huron. October was Ruin the Friendship by Taylor Swift. November was Dust and Divinity by Joy Oladokin. And December was Taking Things for Granted by Joy Oladokin. I love all these songs. They're all great. I would highly recommend all of them. What were some of your top songs of the year?
So, unfortunately for me, Spotify does not list songs by month, so
Rude.
I had to guess which songs I listened to the most on my car radio. And then after a while, I kind of gave up halfway through of the songs I listened to. So I only have less than what you have, but the songs that I did listen to the most last year are Gabriella by Cat's Eye, Rockstar by Lisa, Espresso from Sabrina Carpenter, Losing Streak by from Hasbin Hotel, No Good Deed from Cynthia Erivo and Wicked for Good, Running Up That Hill from Kate Bush, and Wildflower by Billy.
Love it.
Totally.
I do find it a little bit funny that we were talking about Stranger Things and Running Up That Hill is on your list.
That was a song that my boyfriend, very much against my will, put on my playlist.
Oh! How dare he? Hate when people interfere with playlists. So stepping away from music for a second, I'm gonna go into some of my top books of the year. I'm a very big reader. I read 101 books last year. And these are, like, I was gonna say top 5. There's more than 5 on this list. These are my top reads and rereads of the year. I say rereads because the first book on this list is Project Hail Mary by Andy Weir. This is one of my favorite books of all time. Andy Weir is such a great sci-fi writer. People criticize this book for being, like, really math and science heavy and not being able to, like, understand it. But it's just like, if you read it and don't skim it, he gives you all the necessary context. You just have to actually pay attention and be a good reader in order to get it. Sorry for criticizing anyone's reading habits. Don't mean to do that. But if that's your complaint, maybe read a little deeper. The next book, and really this is a trilogy of books that I read this year that I just fell in love with. It's the Beartown trilogy by Fredrik Backman. He's a Swedish author, so these books have been translated from Swedish into English, but it translates really well. Beartown follows this small town in, like, the very north of Sweden, as well as kind of its neighboring town, both in the first book and the following books. they're both hockey towns. And then in the first book, this, like, traumatic event happens to this young girl, and the entire town is, like, essentially turned upside down because it involves her and one of the town's star hockey players, and everything that follows is kind of a result of that, like, one night. The books are very, like, messy. They really, like, dig into the characters. They're more character-driven than plot-driven, but I love when books do, like, a deeper character study. So this is just a great trilogy. The next two on this list are Parable of the Sower and Parable of the Talents by Octavia Butler. These books are very frightening dystopian books that kind of reflect what I would say, like, a lot of we're seeing in modern day. Especially in Parable of the Talents, there is this evangelical Christian who gets elected to be president, and the world just starts falling apart even more than it already was in the first book, and boy, does that not parallel what we see today. Those books are really good, but I would recommend being in a solid state of mind and not incredibly depressed while reading them. The next book is Catabasis by R.F. Kuang. She's just one of my favorite authors. She writes in such an interesting way. This book follows two characters, Peter and Alice, as they travel to hell to retrieve the soul of their professor so they can get a letter of recommendation for grad school. And as a graduate student, it's... that one hit me. I'm just like, would I do that? Probably. Graduate students are desperate, man. And then the last book I have on here is Remarkably Bright Creatures. This book is so cool. It includes the perspective of an octopus, and it's also set in Washington. It's a very cool book. It's a very good read. It reminds me a lot of Frederick Backman's books as being, like, very character-driven rather than plot-driven. I would highly recommend it. MJ, any books this year?
No.
Okay. So now, we're gonna take more of a step back into what's local, what's happening, and talk about our top local businesses for the year. MJ, do you want to start us off?
Okay, so these two local businesses are more so close to me because I am going to semi-dox myself and say I live in University Place. So that's like a 20-minute drive from there to downtown Tacoma, and I obviously don't want to do that a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So the first one that I have is Happy Duo Cafe. I've not been there in a while, but I used to go there a lot. They have really good coffee. I remember I had this sandwich one time there. It was really good. I like their matcha. I like their hot chocolate, I believe. I think I had it one time. But it's a really small coffee place, and some people that I knew from high school used to work there, so yeah.
Nice.
And then the second one is Poke Pop. That is right by Tacoma Community College. So this is probably like one of my favorite poke places because when I was in high school doing Running Start, so like early 2024, because I only had classes in the morning, I would just take my car and then go to Poke Pop and spend $20 on poke because I was hungry and it tasted really good. So that was just one of my favorite things to do when I was like a Running Start student who had nothing better to do. And I still go there today. I really love just getting like ahi tuna and tofu because I'm really picky and only eat 2 proteins. And I also get crab salad on it. So I just really like poke.
Unpopular opinion, probably. I don't like crab salad. And I actually prefer salmon as my protein usually when I get poke. There's a new poke place on Pac Ave that replaced Sam Choi's. I've been once so far since they opened, and it was pretty good. So I'd recommend visiting there as well. I do not remember their name, even though they're right down the hill. I'm going to highlight 2 of my favorite local bookstores. One is King's Books. I've been going there since I was a kid. They have bookstore cats, so it's kind of hard not to love them. But every time I go there, I always find something that I didn't even know I was looking for. They have a very well-curated selection. And I mean, once again, bookstore cats. How can you say no? The other bookstore I want to highlight is kind of it is a newcomer to town. I believe they opened in October of 2025, and that is Shelf Indulgence. It is Tacoma's first romance-only bookstore. It's a super cozy spot. They have like a tea and coffee bar inside, and their like romance like selection is like curated by like whatever type of romance you're looking for. You can also filter by like spice level, which I think is really great. But yeah, it's a super cute bookstore. I love it. The owner seems really sweet. Yeah. And then I want to just highlight a few like local coffee shops / cafes. First is Loon Cafe, which I believe was started by UW alumni at the very least, if not UW. I don't actually remember. I read something about it. I think it was UW. They have like fun coffee drinks. They have fun matchas. They have crepes, which I can't really eat, but they look really good, and a bunch of other really cool dessert things. I think they also have sandwiches that would also probably be very good. The other place I want to highlight is Naomi Jo Coffee. It's right in Seven Seas, so it's right near campus. They have some of the most interesting coffee drinks, I would say, in terms of coffee shops near campus. I will say it's kind of on the pricey side. Like, after tip, I think I spent $10 on that latte. But the people who work there are super sweet, and the drinks I order always taste really good. And another coffee shop I want to highlight is Common Ground. They're also super cool. They're one of the few coffee shops that has a gluten-free breakfast sandwich, so that makes me very happy. And they also have really interesting drinks. And I can't talk about coffee shops near campus and then not mention Metro Coffee. I love Metro Coffee. Every time I go in there, I get something new, and I'm always surprised and happy about it. It always tastes good. Let's talk about some top news events from the year. So, in January, there was originally a TikTok ban that was set to go through, and it did for a couple of days, but then our current president was like, no, we're going to make a deal, and then there's going to be no TikTok ban, and there hasn't been a TikTok ban, which is exciting for people like me who love to doom scroll, but also at the same time, I kind of wish it was banned so I could get that stupid app off my phone. Okay, MJ, do you want to go into some of the elections that were kind of interesting last year?
Okay, so the first one is the Zohran Mamdani election. So that election was an unprecedented win. He was running as a Democratic Socialist and not just a Democrat. He also beat the former governor Andrew Cuomo in the primary and forced him to run as an independent. And then the Katie Wilson election. So she beat the incumbent Bruce Harold by a small margin, and she's also one of the 2 progressive candidates elected in Washington.
And Justin will look at me again if I don't make this. We say progressive because that's what they run as, but it doesn't actually matter until they actually start doing things. So we'll be keeping an eye on them. The other kind of cool things that happened this last year is the Mariners made it to the American League Championship Series for the first time since 2001, which, was before I was born, so that's pretty cool. We still lost, but hopefully we make up for it this year. There was some really unprecedented flooding in the area, specifically in Puyallup, in Auburn, and further up north, too. Snoqualmie Falls got huge. It's the most water I've ever seen, personally, coming from that waterfall. But, we're still recovering from that. But it was really interesting to see, especially because we were supposed to be hit with a second round of it. But California ended up getting it instead, so they had to deal with their own problems. But that's all we've got for today. That is the Ledger Wrapped for 2025. Yay. Goodbye.